Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here with you. Thank you for having me today. I have enjoyed all the speakers I have heard so far, and that has been really wonderful. So I want to walk through really quickly with you. The subject today is collaboration and communication. And what's really interesting about collaboration and communication is when I've given talks like this in the past, many people think I'm going to come in and change the other person, change the person they're trying to talk with, change the person they're working with, change the person they're collaborating with. And of course, that's not something I can do. The only person we can really change in any scenario or situation is ourselves. So before I get into that, I'll tell you just a bit about Avalara. We provide software solutions that help businesses of all types calculate and comply with transaction tax regulations around the globe. So that's just a tiny bit about Avalara. But let's jump right in. I hope you're seeing my screen okay. If you're not, one of the panelists will tell me. So one of the first things that I like to tell people to do is to be enlightened about themselves first. Before you go into any collaboration, any difficult conversation, any way that you're going to need to collaborate with others, define your why. Why are you there? Why do you get up and do what you do every day? Why does it matter? Why did you choose this profession, this company? What's driving it, right? Define the why first, and then know what's driving and fueling that why for you, so that you're aligned with what you're trying to get out of it. If you are, close to retirement, there might be a different why for you than there was early in your career. If you're raising a young family, you might have a different why. If you're paying off student loans, you may have a very different why. So it's really important that you understand what that is and that you're motivated by it, and understand that not everyone else is motivated by your same why, but it doesn't mean there's not room for them at the table and that you can't find common ground to move your initiative or project forward. So I like to always get clear with myself about what's driving me to be enlightened first. The next thing I like to tell people to do is to be certain. What is the goal? What is it we're trying to achieve? So often we go into a project, we go into a meeting, and no one is really clear about what good looks like. We are responsive many times rather than being proactive. We're responding to something has happened, something has broken, we need to fix something, rather than saying, what is it we're trying to really accomplish here? This establishes a few things. One, we know when we're finished. If we have a goal, we actually know when we get there, and then we can move on to the next thing if we're prioritizing multiple projects as many of us are. So what is it we're trying to do? The next thing is should is greater than can. And this became abundantly clear to me when I asked my father when he knew that I had grown up. When did he know that I was a mature adult? When did that happen for him? And he said, when you started talking to me more about what you should be doing versus what you could be doing. So go back to that first week, month in college when you could stay up all night, you could eat whatever foods you wanted to eat because no one was there to tell you not to. That's can. You can do anything, but what should you be doing? So I should be going to the library. I should be working on my term paper. I should be checking in with my parents to let them know how I'm doing in school or whatever that is. So that's the difference. I often hear people talk to me about all the things that they can do, and very rarely do people settle really in on what they should be doing, what's important, what will really move the needle. A lot of times we focus on what we want to do, those parts of our job or parts of the project that we like to do, versus really those big rocks that we really got to get around, but we allow them to be the elephant in the room and sort of work around them sometimes rather than working through them. So focus on the should rather than just the can. And then I really like a real good old fashioned RACI chart. When I'm working on a project, it's very important to me to lay out what is my role? Why am I in the room? And I think we should ask this question more. We have so many more meetings now. We spend so much time on Zoom. We're talking in so many meetings. One day I was in 15 Zoom meetings. And I thought, I really need to get very clear on why I'm here. What is my responsibility to this project, to this team, to this meeting, to our company goal? Where do I play a role? Very often when I'm working with a small group of people, particularly one other person, I like to establish who's 51 and who's 49. Whose decision is it really? Because that allows me to align what I need to do to what someone else is doing. So if I'm 51 and the decision is mine, then I need to take into consideration all the other points of view. But at the end of the day, it's up to me to make the decision, the go or no go. Sometimes that's not me. Sometimes I'm 49 and I need to take a back seat and ensure that I'm giving the decision maker all of the information, the tools, the resources, the context that they might need with which to make an informed decision. So really lay that out before you move too far into any sort of project or any way that you might need to collaborate with someone else. The next is be open. Sometimes we just got to get out of our own way. Sometimes the problem is us. And how do you know that? Well, there are a few ways that I think you can really know that. We all know our strengths and our weaknesses. And I don't mean those things that show up on your performance review every year. I mean the things that you really know that you're not necessarily good at. And how can you get out of your own way around them? This is a silly example. I'm not very good at directions. Unless I'm standing at an ocean and you tell me which ocean it is, I probably can't tell you which direction I'm facing. And I've never been very good at it. So what do? I have to get out of my own way around that. It's an important thing to know, but I have to figure out a way around. So I use my phone. I use other people that I know are good at it. I use a map. There are lots of ways to work through that. But if I just stand in my own way and don't acknowledge that that's a weakness of mine, I'll never be open to hearing solutions that might help me because I'll be so stuck in that's not a problem. The other thing to get out of your own way is allow people to tell you the truth. Allow people to really tell you and give you feedback. So often, women in particular, and women of color also, do not get honest and direct feedback. People don't give it to us. And so we spend part of our careers not really understanding and knowing what we need to do to move forward. So be open to that feedback, ask for that feedback, and when you receive it, listen to it, take in what you need to, and change what feels right for you to change. Be who you are consistently is a really important one for me. I don't really appreciate or like to collaborate or communicate with people who are really up one day and really down the next day. And I just mean that in terms of their approachability. I remember walking down the hallway and seeing two people talking, and they were waiting to go into a third person's office. And when another person came out of the office, they said to the two people who were waiting, "Don't go in there. She's not in the mood today." And I thought, I really never want to be that person. I want to always make sure that the work doesn't stop because of how I happen to show up today. That if people really need me as the leader or as a teammate, that I'm open to them. Does that mean we never have a bad day? Of course not. It doesn't mean that. But if you're the type of person that people don't know whether or not they can approach, it can get in the way of getting your own work done. And it's another way also of getting in your own way. So show up consistently for people around you as you communicate and collaborate. Why is greater than how? Why are we doing what we're doing? Too often it's that way that we talked about setting the goal. Too often we don't talk about why we're doing what we're doing. What will it solve? Is it a nice to have? Is it a need to have? Are we trying to win an award? Why are we doing this? And we don't level set that. And it doesn't mean people can't have different whys. Lots of people can come to the table with different whys. As long as we can mesh those together and move forward collectively, that's okay. Your why may be you would like a promotion. You would like to work on this project to stretch your skills or goals. You would like to, lots of things. That's okay, as long as it fits in with what everyone else is trying to do and that your why isn't outsized to what we need to do to accomplish it. You've seen that happen before, where one person has a really, really strong why and nothing else can move forward without that person being aligned to it. So why greater than how? How we can always figure out, but if we don't understand why, we're going to miss the target every time. Be contentious. Conflict is not a bad thing. I like to sort of think about when and where I'm going to have my conflict. So as I'm ideating something or I want to put a new idea forward in the business, I frequently go to people that I think are my biggest naysayers. I go to the team, I go to the person that I think this is going to have the biggest impact on you, potentially a negative one, or maybe you just might view it as a negative one. So let me align there first. Let me work out those kinks first rather than waiting until I've already formed it. It's too late in the process, or we'd have to break a lot of things to really fix that challenge. Let's have that now. Let's disagree now and then move forward together, because I have found that people that I thought were going to be the biggest naysayers will come around and be the biggest champions because they were brought into the process early. And anticipate those roadblocks. Where might you find that conflict? Many times when I'm entering into a relationship with a vendor, I ask them to tell me what they don't do well. And sometimes they're shocked. What do you mean? What don't I do well? And I think, well, everybody has something they don't do well, either as an organization, as a person. So let's talk about it now. It actually will help us work better together. I think vendors oftentimes are afraid that it's going to be a reason for me to say no to them. And in fact, nothing could be further from the truth. Once I understand where our roadblocks are going to be, we can anticipate them together and solve for them together, and neither of us is surprised when we get there. And finally, be a champion. Support others' work. Too often, particularly as women, we don't throw the ladder back down when we've achieved something. I've even heard people say things like, well, I figured it out, so they'll have to figure it out too. You know, I had to do X, Y, and Z, so why don't they? Well, the job here is to make it easier for people. Why are we trying to make it more difficult? There are already enough challenges, generally as women, specifically as women of color, add in other marginalized things. You might be a queer woman or a woman with a disability, or we've got enough challenges. Let's try to be in this one together. So support others' work. Sometimes support means giving constructive feedback if you think the person isn't hearing it. Sometimes it means being a voice for that person in the room. Sometimes it means mentioning their name when there's an opportunity for them to lean in. It takes all forms, but truly support one another and be the inspiration. Be transparent enough with people that they can really glean something from your journey. If we only talk about the good parts, we never talk about the parts where we messed up or where we had to try again or start again. Well, that's not really that inspirational. You know, it's really helpful for people to understand, oh, got it. When I lose or when it doesn't quite go my way, what's the pivot point? How do I come back? But we can't live our lives and careers, you know, through an Instagram type of lens. We kind of have to let people see the ugly parts sometimes too. So I wanted to leave you with that. I think I came in my time. I'm pretty loquacious, so I like to make sure I stay on time. But I think those are the things that really help us communicate and collaborate better with people around us and get to a better result. So with that, I would say thank you to the Women in Tech Festival for having me today. It's been fantastic to be with you today. Thanks so much.